Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to cover one of the Zeuses. Two were released from a glorious concept. They're here already. We got two flavors that joined us in a recent patch. So we have the cargo variant, the CL of the Zeus Mk2 in that wonderful blue and yellow, really cool paint for the ship. That's the ship we're going to focus on today. The other variant, of course, is the ES. This is the exploration variant, which I intend to get out either tomorrow or Sunday, but preferably tomorrow, but don't hold me to that at the time of recording. And then I'm trying to finish up the MISC video, which is proving to be a little bit more tricky than I thought it was going to be, so hopefully I'll get that out soon enough. But today we're going to focus on the CL, which is honestly a very clever piece of engineering. I think the exterior to the ships for both this and the ES are exquisite. I'm a bit of a stickler for attention to detail, and the Zeus ships just have detailing all over them, which I appreciate. I think it looks incredible. There are some things I'd like to talk about interior wise, which I think could be of interest to you possibly, but overall they are solid ships. Now the third variant, which is the MR, is the one we're waiting for at the moment, so that's your interdiction, quantum jamming, EMP bearing, 3-man crew, combat vessel variant, so that is also going to be pretty interesting. But the CL, purely built for the cargo hauler. They did add some really cool things into the back of the ship here, like this blue trimming, for example, is to denote where you can place certain things like components and your cargo, so you don't have to sort of guess, which is nice. But the overall aesthetic, I think, looks great. I think the blue and yellow is a very good look. You know, it makes the ship look very, very interesting externally. They are quite exquisite. As I said, there is a lot of detail externally. So the Zeus Mk2 CL. My first impressions of the ship were, it's interesting, right? Now, I didn't pick any of these ships up because I wanted to sort of experience them firsthand. And the fact of the matter is, I just have ships that are more equipped to do what I want them to do. But if I was a new player, or maybe I just like the Zeuses in general, I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. I think they're fairly niche with their unique looks, right? And like I said, they do look very, very, very good. Now, I initially thought that the Zeus CL, who was its closest competitor? Perhaps it was the Spirit C1. Maybe it's the Cutlass. Maybe it's something else that carries cargo that I can't think of right now. But those were sort of, the C1 was sort of what I was comparing it to, and I think that is not the ship to compare it to. I actually think if you don't want the exterior detail and you want a ship that is probably more practical, certainly not the prettiest to look at, I actually think the closest comparison to this ship and competitor is more than likely the Freelancer Max, which I believe has 120 SCU, so you're only losing 8, but you have room for 4-man crew. You know, it's just one of those ships that's a little bit outdated, doesn't look anywhere near as nice as the Zeus is, in my opinion. It's very sort of frumpy, as I've described the Freelancers in the past. But if you want practicality over looks, then you're probably better off with the Freelancer Max, and that's obviously up for debate. That isn't set in stone in any way, shape or form. That's just sort of my opinion. I don't think the C1 is really a competitor to the Zeus. I think the Zeus trumps it. I think the closest competitor, in all honesty, is probably the Freelancer Max. You just either love the Freelancer or you don't. That's kind of the impression I get from the community. So yeah, but the Zeus, it does look absolutely superb. As you can see, the detailing, there's so many lines and curves and very angular. You know, there's raised edges, there's angles everywhere you look. It's got a pair of size 4 gimbaled weapons at the front, well, they're all gimbaled now, of course. We have a defensive turret on the belly of the ship with excellent clearance. There's the tractor beam in the back. Unfortunately, I didn't get to film the tractor beam in operation because as I was doing so, 30k and ruined my recording, so I couldn't put it. But I assure you, there is a functioning tractor beam on the back of this ship, which is nicely tucked away just above the cargo ramp. So I couldn't get that, unfortunately. Let's talk about then the way that this ship is built, because it is exceedingly well designed in terms of how they've managed to squeeze space onto a ship that's so triangular in its nature, so incredibly pointy everywhere you look. I think it's absolutely incredible what CRG have managed to do with the shape that the ship is, okay? And then to top that off, it's incredibly doubly cool, okay? It's not a word, but it is now, that they've managed to make different variants of the same ship using this sort of really pointy, aggressive, angular ship, have multiple roles with different variants. It's very impressive. So, as much as I appreciate what they've done, there are some issues I think that we need to sort of talk about, where I think the ship gets let down a little bit. But again, that's my personal preference. I mean, you could just love it, right? Now, when it comes to the internals, this is where I think some areas look great, others not so much. But you should pay special attention to the trim of this ship internally. For example, the blue and the blacks and the greys and the floor patterns, and possibly the cockpit layout, okay? Because I honestly think the colour scheme, as it's RSI, and that sort of blue and black and those sort of plasticky tones that you get through the interior of the ship are very likely a glimpse into the future of what the Perseus and the RSI Galaxy are going to look like internally with this blue trim. I'll discuss that in more detail as we move internally, but for now, let's take a look at the ship's firepower. So at the front, you'll see nestled between the cockpit, the bridge area, are some weapons which they just sit there beautifully. These are size 4, they are gimbaled of course, and they are the Omnisky size 4 laser cannons. I haven't swapped any components for any of the Zeuses at any point, I just haven't had the ability to do so. And of course, there is a whole multitude of ship balancing going on at the moment, so depending on when you're watching this particular video, this could all be changed in terms of weapon loadout. Now we do get a belly turret, and I have to say I think it's one of the best belly turrets I've seen on a ship, because the visibility, due to the Zeus's unique shape, its firing arc is superb. Excellent gun depression and all-round 360 degree pretty much below the ship, giving you a lot of potential protection. Obviously the ship is fairly vulnerable on top, but there's ways around that. You could just simply roll the ship around if you need to. Of course, we do have the missile launchers, which are very reminiscent of its much bigger brother, the RSI Polaris. Kind of cool that they've transferred that torpedo launching area of the RSI Polaris into this little Zeus, but used it for its missiles instead. I really like that. That's really cool. We do get some pretty potent missiles, which is nice, and as you can see here, the animation works lovely jubbly. So, firepower, not too shabby at all for a cargo runner. Let's now then transition into the inside of the ship, where it gets really interesting. So here is your basic cargo operation area, and as you can see, there is blue trim on the floor, denoting where you can store either components and or cargo, which is really nice. The thing that struck me, in all honesty, internally with the Zeus is I can't help but feel that this is the trim set for the Galaxy, as previously mentioned, and the Perseus, and I kind of like it. Kind of. There are some areas that I think, not so much, but as we come to those, I'll discuss why. But as a cargo area goes, you've got components in here too. I think it's very clever how they've managed to engineer the ship with its unique shape to fit 128 SCU in the back. Let's be honest, 128 SCU for a ship of this size is very generous. I think it's an excellent cargo runner, the Zeus. Like I said, I think the only real competition for it is the Freelancer Max. Has some better practicality to it. It just, the problem with the Freelancer Max is it looks like a Freelancer Max. That's the only problem. Here we have the living quarters. Now, they could put another bunk bed there. As you can see, that top shelf is not. It's more like a storage thing for you to put your flares on, because it's a 3-man cruise ship. I prefer that just to having an extra bunk, because honestly, there are some parts of the interior which look fantastic. Like, it looks really modern in the habitation living quarters, sleeping area, sorry. When we come to the kitchen, this is the kitchen. They've put a window in there. There's like a little breakfast stool, which is all beautifully detailed. There's stitching, you can see. The seat looks like foam. It looks comfortable, you know. They've really gone all out. But it's so bland in here. Was my first initial thought was, it's incredibly boring. Like, it just seems washed out. Now, that might just be me. I'm sure some people love this, but for me, I'm looking at this and going, it's really bland. Like, there's nothing drawing my eye. It's almost like a whitewash of boredom. Do you know what I mean? Which it's kind of a shame, because what they've done with the shape is absolutely incredible. You know, the feat of engineering to get this all to work and fit is absolutely incredible. But then you go into the kitchen and it's just a whitewash of boredom is sort of how I would express it. Now, I decided to record this here because I think this is an actual snapshot into the future of the Galaxy and Perseus. Expect a lot of this blue trim and lovely sort of black detailing on the floor. You know, I honestly think this is what the Galaxy and the Perseus are going to look like. Obviously, depending on the features on board the ship, there will be different areas, of course. But this trim, the internals, the vibe, I think will be captured. Now, this is the sort of midship. So we have our engineering station here, along with the components, suit lockers. We have the airlock on the left. We have at the front is obviously the cockpit entrance, and on the left, just out of shot, I'll change that in a second, is another entry point, which is awesome. I think they've probably learned from the MSR, the Crusader Star Runner, that having 2 entry points is nice. So they've added one here. It works. It's awesome. Very convenient, and actually pretty well hidden on the exterior of the ship, because I have ship labels off most of the time. Took me a while to find it, I'm not going to lie, but it is nice to have 2 entry points and then an airlock, so you're catered for there, along with a lovely a lovely fire extinguisher, because fire will be a thing, even though it's recently been delayed. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for resource management, fire management, life support, etc. But it's going to be worth the wait, because in the last 3 years since I've been playing, or longer, I can't remember, they have made leaps and bounds. So we're getting there, and it's going to be awesome. So I think the only thing that lets this ship down internally, for me personally, is the kitchen. I really think it was far too bland for all the effort they put in. Maybe if they spent an extra month just throwing some trinkets or something to catch my eye in there, and not so drab and boring, I think it would have been an excellent, excellent interior. And of course, as we move towards the bridge, I've got to say, it's really a unique place to sit. It's quite awesome sat next to those weapons when you're the pilot. The co-pilot seat and the gunner station, and obviously the tractor beam seat, they all function brilliantly, and with the introduction of the new MFDs, it's such a breath of fresh air. But more importantly, I think the detailing in and around the neck of the ship. For example, we have a weapon rack should things go awry. We've got some we have some component bays behind here as well for easy access. But the detailing on the seats is absolutely incredible, especially if you pay attention to the stitching and that sort of memory foam. They look so comfortable. Absolutely incredible, the detail, without a shadow of a doubt. Right, let's then take a look at the ship's weapons and components. Okay, here we are on our trusty DPS calculator, and as you can see, we are looking at the stock components, and we will always look at the stock components because the game is constantly evolving. Now, of course, you can swap these out to fit your needs. You can upgrade your ship to your heart's content, but I like to do stock components because they change all the time. So we have the 2 size 4s. The remote turret is indeed a size 3 with the Panthers. For the missiles, we get Dominator 2s times 4, 8 in total. We get 3 size 2 shields, which are the Aspis. Of course, you can swap these out, get a little bit more longevity out of your shields, a bit more health, a bit more power, that sort of thing. The flexibility's there. So 3 size 2 shields. Lovely jubbly. Power plants, we have 2 size 2 Diligence currently installed on the ship. And then we have the 2 size 2 cool cores for our coolers. And then finally we have the quantum driver, which is a chaos quantum drive. Again, feel free to mix and match to suit your particular cargo running needs. Speed versus range is always the classic conundrum. Unfortunately, that is something you will have to figure out. So components wise, pretty cool. The ES, obviously different by its very nature, and when we come to cover that ship, we will go through the same process of covering the differences. But overall, not too bad at all, I think, for a stock component layout. Okay, so the Zeus Mk2 CL, a very, very impressive ship in terms of how it's built. Very impressive with the level of details to be found on the exterior of the ship. Incredibly ingenious how they've managed to squeeze some of the things found on board internally on the ship, and obviously a very, very slick Mac Daddy paint job. There's a lot going for this ship. It's a very niche kind of looking ship. You either like it or you don't. I like it. I just can't use one, you know, from the other ships that I've got. The engines, again, look absolutely fantastic. I'm a bit of a sucker for the Blue Flame engines, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, there's a lot going for this ship. I think it looks incredibly, incredibly awesome. It's just some areas of the internals that could be a little bit better, I think. But there's time to do our walk around, and it's really nice being able to do this in a persistent hangar. This is my home, and I don't have to worry about a timer trying to kick me out, so you may see some stuff and things in the background. But we'll do our walk around, and as you can see, the ship is a classic triangle shape. We have the tricycle landing gear, complete with landing lights, which is obviously a lesson I think they learnt from sort of when the Corsair launched. People trying to land in pitch darkness, it's very difficult, so we have the landing lights, which I think is important. Moving through the ship then, pay attention to sort of the panels, the pipes. There's nuts and bolts and gubbins and all of the stuff that makes this ship cool. This ship does have extra thrusters to help it carry said SCU. There is some damage there for no apparent reason. I assure you, I did not crash. No Zeuses were harmed during the making of this video, so that's still that very annoying bug that is still prevalent. And then we move towards the rear. We have the awesome, awesome engines. We have the cargo ramp directly above where that yellow trim line is. That's the cargo tractor beam arm that unfolds and allows you to manipulate your cargo. As I said previously, unfortunately, I didn't quite get to record that because 30k and then rage quits happen. So I can only apologise, but I promise you it is there. Yeah, it's just really, really impressive. And to hammer home just how detailed the ship is, inside the gear well is modelled. And you can see the mechanics behind the operations of the gear. And I appreciate the levels of detail and attention to detail to be found on board when they make these ships. Then we swing over, more pipes, gubbins, all that really cool sci-fi exterior stuff to be found on the Zeus. The belly turret, of course, an excellent, excellent firing arc. One of the best belly turrets in the game. Yeah, very cool. So let's make our way inside the ship then, because, you know, it's all symmetrical. So, open. Bit more battle damage there from nothing whatsoever. Up the ramp we go. Now, obviously, you can fit vehicles in here. Not a problem. Rocks, Rovers, nurses, if you so choose. Very, very roomy. Not much to say about it. I think it's very cleverly done, right? They've sort of, with the right angles they're using. Let's close that. So, We have... Is it this one? No, it's not. It's this one. Or is it this one? No, it is this one. So we do have some components here. Open. Power plant. The relay. You see there's a fuse there. We do have space for our radar and batteries, which are going to be useful. Fire extinguisher. Nothing on this back wall. And then in this corner tucked away, another weapon rack. Again, very useful. So your entire crew has enough weapon racks to have 2 weapons each. Having one in the cargo area, I think, is a brilliant idea. So you can gear up, head out, cause trouble, maybe run a bunker or 2, drag corpses into the back, strip them of all their loot. You know, the usual. Jump drive. I still don't know how big jump drives are going to be. Some ships doesn't make sense. Others, they're tiny. This little part of the ship here honestly reminds me of the MSR, and I kind of always think that side panel right by the ramp, is there a secret passage there? There isn't, but I've been trained by the MSR to think so. So yeah, components in here, plenty of room. You have the blue trim denoting where you can place your components and or cargo. And we open up this door. Brings us through to the RSI Perseus trim galaxy, cool sort of dark grey carbon fibre look. I really think this is a Perseus or galaxy interior in the making. I honestly believe that. We'll stay tuned though, obviously, to find out more. On the left we have habitation, so 3 bunks and like a storage area for your flares, maybe your trophies, things of that nature. It's a nice touch. They could have easily put another bed there, but I think having a home away from home, you know, the ability to put your flares out is cool. We do have a shower toilet combo. Again, another area of the ship that is quite bland, but the animation with the toilet is good. No idea how the hygiene mechanic is going to work. I get comments on it all the time. I don't know. They haven't told us anything about it in years. All I know is hygiene is the thing, as it should be. It's happening. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm sure they will find out an interesting way to do it. So very cleverly engineered with the shape. We do have your own personal storage lockers as well, as you can see, to put stuff and things in. One for each crew member. And then the RSI logo. And I don't think there's anything here. So we'll head across the hallway into the kitchen. There are functioning, I want to say cupboards? Were they cupboards? Or like pantries? But it's just, they've done so much work. They've done so well with some of the detailing on the seats and things of that nature, and it's just a whitewash of boredom, isn't it? It's just so bland in here. As you can see, you can store your food, your drinks, anything you'll need for a long distance cargo run. So it's a very functional kitchen, I think is the way to put it. There are some cooking appliances scattered around. We do have a sink and a few more storage areas. We have the breakfast bench, but yeah, that's the letdown, I think, of the ship. And it's not by much. It's really me trying to nitpick and find fault, because it's overall a very well polished ship. We have the second entry point here. And then, of course, at the engineering station, we have some of the important stuff. So we'll open up these. We have a battery, which is mahusive. Then we have a shield generator placed above that. We do have another one here, which is the fuse relays, as you can see. And that is not a button, I don't think. We have our engineering terminal coming soon, TM. So this will be where you fix and evaluate and identify faults in the ship, I guess. And then we have GraviGen. The GravGen is missing, which is bizarre. Right? Surely that should be in now, because other ships have them in now. So that sort of threw me off a little bit. There should be some sort of gravity generator going. Suit lockers, very useful for obvious reasons, storing your armor, etc. Airlock, which again, very useful. Space stations, docking or ship to ship. Gives us a lovely view outside. Animation works fine. There's my little collection of stuff and things, just ready to go for whatever reason. And we come through to the neck of the bridge. Weapon rack. Again, perfectly situated behind all three of you. If there's three of you, you can grab a gun. And then we have another shield generator, life support, and avionics. And I'm assuming avionics are where blades are going to go. Let's talk about blades real quick then, because they are on the way, well, they should be, for the release 1.0. So blades are going to be a thing. NPC crews are coming after 1.0. That is not set in stone. That is what I heard from one of the devs. I can't remember. I think it was on Spectrum. So blades should be a thing to go for 1.0. So you will have automated turrets. They will not be as good as humans, obviously, but we're getting there, right? So let's jump in the gunner's seat. As you can see, I wanted to sort of show the view, because initially I thought, well, you're not really going to see much. You know, if this is fully crewed, it's going to be a problem, but it isn't too bad at all. You can see what you need to see. It's a little bit intrusive for the co-pilots and gunners. Obviously, you can mount the tractor beam from these MFDs and the remote turret. So the visibility wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then finally, as we jump in the pilot seat, and my head didn't move because reasons, it was terrifying. I have spent a lot of time moaning about MFDs and radars and the UI that was just horrific on its initial launch, and I am so pleased that they have these MFDs are absolutely fantastic across the board, I might add. But as you can see, the visibility is pretty good for the pilot. It's really nice having the weapons right next to you and watching them. You sort of get that red glow. It's awesome, but visibility-wise, it's great. The cockpit is great for the pilot. A little bit intrusive, but not overbearing. I think it's a great place to sit. So there we go, guys. That was my video on the Zeus Mk2 CL. I think it's a fantastic, cleverly built cargo runner. If you enjoyed today's video, you know what buttons to press, and I, of course, will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care and cheers.